What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Alex Sports Talk and Bets. I know a lot of y'all been complaining that usually the NFL videos come out the morning of the NFL games, which I understand. So I decided to carve out some time to make the NFL video a day before, so that way you guys have time to get your picks in, to put your pool picks in, to make your parlays, or do whatever it is you got to do. Alright, so as always, we're going to be breaking down NFL teams, their situations, who might be falling off, who might be coming up, and we're also going to do a pick'em too. So we're going to discuss the NFL, and we're going to do pick'em and picks, all right, and parlays. So for those of you who are new, that's what we do in this segment. So if you want some good picks or just to hear some good NFL talk, stay tuned because we're about to get straight into it. So let me pull up my Palm Pilot, see what it's looking like, and as always, we're just going to go right down the list, all right? So the first thing that pops up is Carolina and Cincinnati. You talk about a bum bowl. You know, both these teams are off to a terrible start. Bryce Young, I told you guys, the leprechaun cannot quarterback. He's too small. He's too fragile. Everybody tried to tell me it's the offensive line, despite the fact that the Carolina Panthers' offensive line numbers on PFF are actually extremely good. They're very good offensive line numbers. So it was never really offensive line. It was always Bryce Young. And we seen that last week when I told y'all Carolina was going to cover that spread. And they did. Now, coming into this game, the Bengals are having a rough season, but I just got into a conversation with one of my best friends. He kept trying to convince me. He's like, yo, the Bengals are done. If they lose this game, they're done. They're 0-3. That means they're done. They're done, son. They're done. No, they're not. I don't think that the Bengals are done yet. As long as you have Joe Burrow, you have a chance. I do think the Bengals will beat the Carolina Panthers. Now, it's going to be a close game. So you might want to take the Panthers 7.5, bump they spread up a little bit to 7.5. You get better value that way anyway. But if it was me, I would just take the Bengals flat. I'd avoid the spread, just take the Bengals flat. I do think the Bengals are going to win that game. I think Joe Burrow starts like a little mini turnaround here. Yeah, I think Jamar Chase, he usually is a slow starter too. I'm worried about their defense, so we'll see. But I just can't see the Bengals dropping the 0-4. I think they win that game. And if they get some momentum going, you got to watch out for Cincinnati, all right? Next one that pops up is the Denver Broncos and the New York Jets. A lot of people tried to write the New York Jets off during the offseason. But I told you guys, they weren't going to be a bad team. Aaron Rodgers is not what he used to be, but he's still good. I remember the first game against San Francisco, everybody wanted to run with jokes about Rodgers, which I didn't understand because he didn't even play bad in that game. They just weren't as good as San Francisco. San Francisco was almost completely healthy. They were only missing Christian McCaffrey at that time. They weren't as banged up as they are now. With all that being said, I expect the Jets to win this game by at least a touchdown. Denver was able to knock off a banged up Buccaneers team that was kind of riding the high, having just knocked off the Lions and being 2-0. I don't think they're going to catch the Jets off guard here. Rodgers, more experienced quarterback than Baker. Baker is a veteran, but Rodgers is a wily vet. And every year he plays, he's playing for a Super Bowl. Otherwise, it would make no sense for him to be playing. So I think he'll have them ready to play. They're at home. Denver's making a long trip all the way over to the East Coast. I really don't see the Jets losing this game. I would take the Jets at 6.5, not to spread a little bit down. But the Jets are definitely going to win that game. The Saints and the Falcons is a very interesting one. Because this is one that can really go either way. If it was me, right? And we're talking from a parlay standpoint, I would probably just leave this game alone. But I know some of you are in a pool. It's not always about parlays. Some of y'all are in a pool. In a pool, you have to pick every single game. So, with that being said, I would give the slight edge to Atlanta. I think Atlanta will knock them off. This is a very even matchup. Both teams playing the Dome. Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr. I'm basically picking this game based upon the fact I think Kirk Cousins is a little bit better than Derek Carr. Bijan Robinson and Alvin Kamara kind of cancel each other out. They both can receive and run out of the backfield. You got Olave and Drake London. I'll probably give Olave the edge, but again, it kind of cancels each other out. These teams are just very evenly matched. You got A.J. Terrell in the secondary for Atlanta. You got Marcus Lattimore in the secondary for Marshawn Lattimore, in the secondary for the Saints. So it's really evenly matched. But due to the fact that I do think Kirk Cousins is slightly better than Derek Carr, and he's at home, which doesn't really matter because the Falcons always let their stadium get taken over. But I would still pick the Falcons to win this game Or if you're making a parlay, I would take the spread of 3.5 for the Saints. That way you're covered either way. But if you're in a pool, I would just roll with the Falcons. I think the Falcons will come out of that game. The Packers and the Vikings. All right, now it was just announced that Jordan Love is going to play, which changed the spread. Before, I would have told you guys to definitely take Green Bay because they were underdogs. But now it's announced that Jordan Love is playing. They changed the spread. With that being said, I do still think it's going to be a very good game. But it is a game that I think Green Bay is going to win. So I would take Green Bay straight. Obviously, if you're in a pool, if you're doing a parlay and you're a little nervous, you can take the Vikings 7.5 because I do think it'll be a close game. But I do think it's a game that the Packers will win. So I would just take the Packers straight up. You get negative 152 on Green Bay. I would take them straight up. I think with Jordan Love coming back, now you can open up that passing game. They got the run game going with Emmanuel Wilson and Josh Jacobs. You got Aaron Jones coming in a homecoming. But I just think the Packers secondary, you got Jair Alexander, you got Xavier McKinley. They'll be strong enough to slow the Vikings down enough to win this game, in my opinion. I think Matt LaFleur could cook something up to get past Brian Flores' defense. He has those guys playing really well, but they still don't have really anyone really extremely talented on that defense. They just have a really good scheme. I think LaFleur will be able to cook up enough for them to win that game, and Green Bay's at home. So I expect Green Bay to come out on top there. Jacksonville and Houston. Houston's going to bounce back in a big way, I think, in this game. I would definitely take the Houston Texans to win, right? Just flat. I wouldn't mind the spread here. I think that they cover that touchdown spread. I think Houston wins this game by more than a touchdown, really. But I definitely think they cover this touchdown spread. They kind of got embarrassed in Minnesota on the road. I think they bounced back in a big way against Jacksonville. Jacksonville, they're kind of in a situation very similar to the New York Giants, where they don't put all their eggs into the Trevor Lawrence basket, and Trevor Lawrence is just not that good. So that was a mistake. It's kind of too late for them to do anything about it now. But, I mean, how long are we really got to have a conversation about Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to have to make a separate video just about Trevor Lawrence. Because I'm trying to figure out how long you guys are going to let Trevor Lawrence live off of high school and college success. He's been consistently a bum every single year except for one that he's been in the NFL. He's been consistently either a bum or just barely average. He did win that one playoff game against Justin Herbert where he came back, but again, outside of that one season, that was a good season. He has been a bum or he has been just barely average every other year. They took Tavon Walker, which was a mistake. Tavon Walker is a prime example. When they took him over Aiden Hutchinson, who I hate, he was the better player. He's a prime example of falling in love with the combine. You run a fast 40-yard dash, and then you just let that trick you into thinking that he's going to be some excellent player, and he fooled you. He's mid. I do like Josh Allen. I like Andre Sisco in their secondary. They got a couple of players. I do like Christian Kirk, but I just think overall the Jaguars are just not a good football team. I think it starts with Trevor Lawrence just not being that good of a quarterback. So, I mean, he's had everything around him, man. And to me, Calvin Ridley decided not to come back kind of said a lot, too. People are going to say it's a money thing, but if he really thought Trevor Lawrence was that guy, I think he would have came back there. Obviously, he went to a worse situation because Will Levis, who we'll be talking about in a few, sucks, too. But either way, man, Jacksonville, I just don't see them doing anything. Houston's going to want to make a statement, a bounce-back game. So Houston's going to win. I also think that they'll cover that spread. We got Pittsburgh and Indianapolis, the Colts. Pittsburgh's going to win this game. I don't even know why it took me so long to get that out. Yeah, Pittsburgh's going to win this game. I don't really know why the line is so close here. I do like the Colts. I think they're better than people give them credit for. But I just don't think the Colts are a team that's built to beat the Steelers. I don't see it. That Pittsburgh defense is legit. They play hard. That scheme is I think that scheme is going to bust Anthony Richardson up. I think he throws at least 2 interceptions. He's probably going to get set about 4 or 5 times. I think they'll take away Jonathan Taylor enough. Those moon balls he be throwing up. He like to throw those moon ball passes, kind of like how Russell Wilson used to do. I don't think that's going to work against the Pittsburgh defense. I just don't see it. I don't really see an angle. I don't see an angle where the Colts win that game. It probably will be a close game, But I just think Pittsburgh's going to win that game. You got the Rams and you got Chicago. But hey, just before we finish up on the Colts and Pittsburgh, I do want to say I think the Colts in the next 2 years will end up being a problem, just not right now. The Rams and the Bears. You know, I would pick the Rams in this game because the Bears just suck. But the Rams are so banged up now, I don't really see how they win it. But I'm going to say this, coaching matters a lot. The Rams are very well coached. Their defense has played better than I kind of expected them to play. I thought they were going to be a lot worse than they are. That's not necessarily to say that they're good, but I thought they were going to be worse than they are. If you're in a pool, I would say to pick the Bears. If you're making a parlay, I would take the Rams 7.5. I think this game is going to be very tight, and I could see the Rams with their superior coaching and their veteran leadership pulling this game out in Chicago. But Chicago should win because the Rams are so banged up. So take the Bears if you're in a pool, but if you're making a parlay, I would take the Rams 7.5. That way you can play it both ways. Because I don't think they lose by more than a touchdown. That's if they lose at all. So the Bears, you know, I'm just not a big Caleb Williams fan. I remember telling everybody before, I really think Jaden Daniels is the generational quarterback in this draft, not Caleb Williams. And he's kind of proving my point. Caleb Williams has some time. I think Caleb Williams will be good. I don't think he's going to be trash. But I don't think he's going to be generational. I don't think he's going to be the one to really turn the Bears around. Unless they get an offensive-minded coach in there who has a really, really, really good game plan making, like you get like a Kyle Shanahan type, Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, Mike McDaniels. You need that type of Shanahan system-minded coach where the scheme makes receivers open, in my opinion, for Caleb Williams to thrive. Because that's kind of what he had with Lincoln Riley back in USC. If you're going to just rely on, okay, Caleb Williams make a play, that's what I mean when I say I don't think he's generational like that. I don't think he's your guy to be able to do that. But if you can set it up for him in a way where it's like, you know, the wide receivers are running open because of the scheme, I think he can make every throw. But the Bears don't have a coach like that. If they're not smart enough to get one, then I don't think Caleb Williams would do much better than Justin Fields did, especially behind that trash O-line. You know, the Bears are interesting. I'm going to do a separate video on the Bears. Because the Bears really messed up when they took Romo Dunze instead of taking an offensive lineman. They had 2 top tackles sitting right there, and they chose to take another receiver. And then they could have traded their pick for an offensive lineman, but they traded it for Keenan Allen, who's always injured. This is like, you're trying to make the game easier for your quarterback by putting a lot of weapons around him, but if you don't have an offensive line, you can never make the game easier for your quarterback. Until the Bears realize that, they won't be a good team. So, like I said, man, that's an upset alert. That is an upset alert. I think the Rams might be able to pull that one out. But, again, you're in the pool, just go ahead and take the Bears, and then if you're parlaying, you can take the spread out of the Rams at 7.5. The Eagles and the Buccaneers. This is another interesting game. I believe the Eagles are going to be getting A.J. Brown back, I think. I don't know if that's confirmed yet or not. If they don't, they're definitely losing because they don't have Devonta Freeman and Jalen Hurts ain't taking no one out without no weapons. So if they don't, they're definitely losing. If they do have A.J. Brown, this would be a very tight game. It's hard to call this game, man. I mean, if you're making a parlay, I just leave this game alone. All right, so I'm going to say that because this is very tight. If you're going to do a pool, you got to pick someone. I would probably give the edge to the Buccaneers at home. I think Buccaneers are at home. They have an embarrassing loss to Denver. I think they'll come out and just beat the Eagles and kind of make another statement like when they beat the Lions. And I believe they're a little bit healthier this week than they were last week. A.J. Brown's kind of a head case. Even if he plays good, if the Eagles start losing, he doesn't have the same demeanor as Devonta Smith. He might start punking Jalen Hurts again, and the chemistry might get thrown off. The Eagles' defense also isn't very good. Not to say Tampa Bay's defense is much better, because it isn't. But I just think them being at home, I think right now they're a tad bit healthier than the Eagles are. Saquon Barkley. They do have Saquon Barkley back there as well, but I'm also liking Bucky Irvin. I liked him coming out of the draft over in Tampa Bay. So that's a really tight game, man. That's really a pick 'em. That's why I said I would avoid it on a parlay, but if you're in the pool, I would go with Tampa Bay. I would go with Tampa Bay as a dog there. They're a slight underdog, but they are the dog. I would go with Tampa Bay there. New England is San Francisco. I think this is kind of a no-brainer. I think San Francisco blows them out. They're 1-2 right now. Kind of got caught off guard by Minnesota and the Rams back-to-back. So I think they have to win this game, and I think they will. New England is just, they're one of those teams. They're going to steal a few games they shouldn't win, but they're not going to be a serious threat. If the 49ers were 2-1 or even 3-0 versus being 1-2, maybe New England could catch them off guard, but with them being 1-2, they're going to pound New England. I would be comfortable taking the spread as 10.5. I might even bump it up to 13.5 because I really think the 49ers are going to want to make a statement on them. But if you're in a pool, you take the 49ers, they're not going to be upset by the New England Patriots. Washington Commanders and the Arizona Cardinals. This is more of a pick-me game than I think a lot of people think that it is. Neither team's defense is that strong. Both the offenses are pretty solid. This is a hard one to call, to be completely honest with you. Because I was just talking about how I think Jaden Daniels is a generational, transcendent quarterback. But I also like Kyler Murray a lot, too. I really like Marvin Harrison. I like James Conner. Brian Robinson is okay. Terry McLaurin is a dog, too. This is kind of hard to say who's going to win this game, man. This is another one where if I was making a parlay, I would probably take Washington 7.5. I don't think Washington would lose by 2 touchdowns. Or I would just leave this game alone because I think it's that much of a pick'em. If I'm in a pool, I'm going to say the Cardinals. If I'm in a pool, I would take the Cardinals. But if you're making a parlay, I would take Washington 7.5. They're covered either way. But I think the Cardinals will pull this one out. I think Kyler Murray in the game, they'll do enough against Washington's defense. That's not very good at all. And I think Arizona's defense will make a stop before Washington's defense will, but this will probably be a high-scoring game. If you're going to do a same game parlay, this would be the game to do it. Kyler Murray probably goes over. Jaden Daniels probably goes over. Terry McLaurin probably goes over. Marvin Harrison probably goes over. Yeah, if you're doing a same game parlay, this would be the game to do it. But I do think the Cardinals are going to win that game. Like I said, if you're doing a regular parlay, like you're just doing a pick-em parlay, like moneyline parlays, then I would take Washington 7.5. That way you cover both ways. The Chiefs and the Chargers. The Chiefs are going to beat the Chargers. I mean, there's a slight chance there may be upset there, but I don't see it. I'm not a big believer in Justin Herbert. He's good, but he's also overhyped. The Chargers I took them to beat Pittsburgh last week. They didn't. They really should have. I just don't see them beating the Chiefs. I don't see it happening. The Chiefs like to play with their food. So if you want to take the Chargers on a 10.5 spread, I think that's fine. But if you're in a pool versus being on a parlay, if you're in a pool, take the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to win the game. But they'll probably make it closer than it needs to be. Cleveland Browns and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Browns are a mess. Devontae Adams is not playing. So that's the only reason I think Cleveland honestly has a chance here. But they're a mess. They're done. I don't think they have the personality to rebound from their record right now currently. Deshaun Watson's a bum. I've been going back in record calling him a bum way back when he was in Houston. I thought he was overrated. Myles Garrett just looks like he's out of it. I don't think he's really hurt. I think he's just set that to give himself an excuse because if they continue to lose, he's just going to drop out, try to save his body, probably demand a trade. Nick Chubb still isn't back yet. Jerome Ford is not really it. They're just a mess, man. They're a mess. If you're in a pool because Devontae Adams is not playing, I'd probably go ahead and pick the Cleveland Browns. Just because Devontae Adams isn't playing. But if I'm making a parlay, I'm taking the Raiders, man. I'm taking the Raiders 7.5 or 3.5. because I think that they can win the game. Now, I'm not comfortable taking Cleveland outright. But if you're going to put me in a situation where I got to take someone outright, because Devontae Adams is not playing, I would probably take Cleveland as the team outright. But like I said, if I'm making a parlay, man, I'm taking the spread, and I'm taking the Raiders on the spread. Last but not least, you got the Bills and you got the Ravens. Another extremely interesting game. The Bills are undefeated currently. The Ravens are 1-2. Lost the game they probably should have won to Las Vegas. Lost another game that they probably should have won to the Chiefs. Bills are rolling right now. The Bills have realized something that I tried to tell people last year, which is wide receivers are overrated. It's better to have a bunch of weapons so people don't know where you're going with the football, and it's better to play as a team. You have teams like Green Bay showing you that. You have teams like the 49ers that show you that. It's better to have more weapons than to have one main guy. And you just keep throwing the ball to that one main guy who's a diva who usually blow up your team's chemistry. With that being said, this is a very, 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 very tough game to call, man. This is a tough game to call. I'm going to go ahead and say, if I'm making a parlay, right? If I'm making a parlay, then I would take the Bills 3.5, plus 3.5, right? That way you're covered either way. If you're going to make me pick one, you know what? If you're going to make me pick one, I'm still going to say the Bills, man. Problem with the Ravens is the defense that I'm used to seeing from the Ravens is just not there. The Chiefs didn't really have that hard of a time moving the ball on them. The Raiders did not have that hard of a time moving the ball on them. Granted, the Cowboys likely racked up garbage time yards, so most of the yards they got was when the game was already over for the most part. But once it started to get tight, the Ravens still didn't necessarily make the stop. Their offense had to win that game for them. If the Ravens keep being in situations where they have to outscore people, they're just not built to be able to do that. They don't have a true number one. I like Zay Flowers, but he's more of a slot, a wide receiver too. He's not a true number one. So it's like if you keep getting yourself in the shootouts, I don't think Lamar's a good passer. He's not a great passer. I just don't think they're built to keep getting into shootouts. The way this Bills offense has been humming, and the way I'm watching the Ravens defense, I don't really have much of a reason to believe that they will win here. This is going to be a very, very, very close game. Do not get me wrong on that. But you got to have at least some upsets in your pool. So with that being said, I do think that the Bills could be an upset pick here. I think they can go with Baltimore and beat the Ravens. So that's my thoughts on where we're at in the NFL really for week 4. I'll do a separate video for the Monday night picks. But that's my thoughts. You guys leave your comments. Let me know what you think. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.